Hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel today. We are following a major breaking situation unfolding across Eastern Europe. Tensions are rising faster than ever as Poland has officially closed its border with Belarus, cutting off a vital route that connects Moscow to the Western world. This sudden move has thrown the entire region into uncertainty and chaos as both governments exchange sharp warnings and accusations. From early morning reports began pouring in, showing long lines of vehicles. Stretching for miles along the main crossings, truck drivers trapped on both sides waiting for orders and updates. The atmosphere is tense, filled with confusion and frustration. Poland announced that all major checkpoints will remain shut indefinitely, citing threats from Belarus and ongoing destabilization attempts. According to Polish officials, this step is necessary to protect national security and sovereignty. Inside Belarus, the shock was immediate. This border is not only a gateway to the European Union, but also a lifeline for trade, energy, and goods for thousands of Belarusian businesses. The closure has brought supply chains to a grinding halt. Supermarkets are reporting shortages of food and fuel. People are lining up outside gas stations and stores, uncertain about what comes next. Videos emerging on social media show empty shelves and growing unrest among citizens who fear the worst. For Moscow, this is a severe blow since Belarus has served as a crucial corridor for Russian exports, logistics, and even military operations in recent months. Analysts describe this as the cutting of Moscow's lifeline, a direct challenge to its regional influence. The Kremlin has condemned Poland's decision, calling it provocative and dangerous. Russian officials claim NATO is pushing Europe toward a confrontation and accuse the West of trying to isolate both Russia and Belarus in Warsaw. However, the tone is firm and defiant. Polish authorities say their actions are in response to what they call hybrid warfare tactics. Coming from Belarus, they accuse Minsk of orchestrating migration waves, sending thousands of refugees toward the border as a political weapon. They also blame Belarusian intelligence services for launching cyber attacks and spreading propaganda aimed at destabilizing Polish institutions. The Polish government insists this is not aggression, but self-defense. Across Belarus, the economic impact is immediate. Factories depending on imported materials have halted production. Transport companies are paralyzed as routes through Poland are now blocked. Fuel prices have skyrocketed within hours, and the local currency is under pressure. The financial system is struggling to stay stable as panic spreads. Through markets and households, ordinary Belarusians are paying the highest price as inflation rises and uncertainty deepens. Reports from Minsk describe growing frustration within the government. President Alexander Lukashenko is facing renewed criticism from opposition groups who accuse him of surrendering Belarusian independence to Moscow. Many are calling for neutrality and demanding that Belarus stay out of Russia's conflicts. But the government appears to be doubling down, increasing security measures and tightening control over media and public gatherings. Protests have been reported in several cities, though authorities quickly moved to suppress them. The situation on the border is deteriorating with every passing hour. Satellite imagery shows heavy buildup of vehicles, military convoys, and fortified positions along the frontier. There are unconfirmed reports of troop movement on both sides. NATO surveillance aircraft have been observed monitoring the situation. Poland has reinforced its eastern defenses, deploying additional troops and equipment to deter any potential provocation. Local residents in the border regions describe an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty as military presence grows. The European Union has voiced full support for Poland, saying the border closure is a necessary response to continued aggression from Minsk. Brussels has issued a statement demanding that Belarus cease all destabilizing actions and respect European borders, while at the same time offering humanitarian support to those affected on the ground. Belarus, in turn, accuses the EU of hypocrisy, saying Western countries are creating an artificial crisis for political gain. Moscow backs that narrative, calling the move another Example of Western interference experts are warning that this situation could escalate into a broader conflict if no diplomatic path is found. Soon, the border shutdown affects not only trade, but also strategic supply lines, including critical energy, routes, pipelines, and rail connections that link Russia to Europe. Cutting those off puts immense pressure on both economies and could trigger a chain reaction that spreads across the region. Already, energy prices across Europe are starting to climb. As markets react to the news inside Moscow, government media outlets are running constant coverage, portraying Poland as a NATO pawn acting under American influence. They claim the closure is part of a larger plan to weaken Russia by choking its access to Western infrastructure. Political analysts in Russia argue that this is an act of economic warfare. They warn that Moscow may retaliate with countermeasures, possibly cutting off gas supplies or blocking transit routes. In response, the rhetoric is becoming increasingly hostile and unpredictable. In the streets of Minsk, the mood is grim. People speak of shortages, rising costs, and fear of isolation. Many Belarusians feel trapped between powerful forces unable to influence their future. At the same time, underground networks and independent journalists are spreading information about growing dissent within the military and police. Some officers reportedly refuse to act against protesters, though these reports remain unconfirmed. The government continues to insist that everything is under control and that order will be maintained at all costs. Poland's decision has also placed immense strain on neighboring countries Lithuania, Latvia, and Ukraine, all of which are now reassessing their own border policies and defense strategies. The closure effectively seals off Belarus from the West, leaving only limited connections through Russia. This isolation could push Minsk even deeper into Moscow's orbit, reducing any remaining independence and making it a full satellite state in both political and military terms. That outcome could reshape the balance of power across Eastern Europe. The United States has expressed strong support for Poland's move, calling it a sovereign decision in defense of democracy. Washington officials say Russia and Belarus must respect international law and stop using intimidation tactics in response. Moscow has accused the U.S. of orchestrating the crisis behind the scenes, describing it as another attempt to encircle Russia and provoke confrontation. Tensions are now at their highest point since the early days of the Ukraine war. Meanwhile, economic observers are warning that global markets could face ripple effects as the crisis unfolds. Trade through the Belarus-Poland corridor is a key route for goods moving between Asia and Europe. The disruption is already being felt in logistics networks. Supply chains are rerouting through longer and more expensive paths, raising shipping costs for businesses. Worldwide energy analysts say the closure could also complicate oil and gas exports through regional pipelines, pushing prices upward and straining already fragile energy markets. As night falls along the border, the situation remains tense. Reports indicate that Belarusian security forces are reinforcing checkpoints, while Polish border guards are maintaining full alert. Drones are being used for surveillance, and local media are under strict censorship orders inside Belarus. Several independent news sites have gone offline following cyber attacks believed to be linked to state agencies. Yet despite the blackout, information continues to leak, showing widespread discontent among ordinary people. For many experts, the border closure marks a symbolic turning point in Europe's post-Cold War order. For decades, Belarus served as a buffer zone between Russia and NATO. Now that buffer is collapsing with each new confrontation. Poland's stance signals that Europe is no longer willing to tolerate hybrid threats or political coercion coming from Moscow's allies. The fear is that this could push both sides closer to direct confrontation, something Europe has been desperately trying to avoid since the Ukraine invasion began. Within the Kremlin, discussions are reportedly underway about possible responses. Some suggest using Belarus as a staging ground for pressure against NATO. Others propose economic retaliation through energy cuts or trade restrictions. Russia's foreign ministry has warned that Poland will face consequences. Though no specific details have been given, State television is framing the situation as a Western attack on Slavic unity, urging solidarity with Belarus and portraying Poland as the aggressor. Belarusian citizens find themselves caught in the middle, powerless to influence decisions made by leaders in Minsk and Moscow. The economic pain is growing every day. Small businesses are closing, transport costs are rising, and food supplies are dwindling. The once busy highways connecting Minsk to Warsaw are now silent, empty, and guarded by armed patrols. The sense of isolation is deepening as communication with the outside world becomes limited.